Hi everyone. When I first started working with the IT team to develop our Flickr, YouTube, and internet pages, I kind of felt like Mark Zuckerberg must have felt the day before he launched Facebook. I knew we had the opportunity to knock it out of the park, but I also knew that it would only succeed if all of you send me your stories, your photos, and your ideas. It turns out I have nothing to worry about. Our YouTube page has already been viewed 3,500 times. Last month alone, we had 158,000 page views on our intranet, and our Flickr page includes 500 photos that have been viewed more than 300,000 times. Now, that's not quite Facebook numbers, and I'm definitely not a millionaire yet, but we're getting there. So I just thank you for all of your help and ask you to continue to send me stuff, continue to be active participants. And with that, I would like to introduce our Chief of Staff, Mike Lagaveni.
Thank you, Ryan. So we've heard some great things about operations and internet and training and planning, and I applaud all of that so far. Like Ryan, I'm very lucky and happy to be working with such an outstanding team. Recognizing your hard work and accomplishment is key. To quote our visions section of the strategic plan, we have made a commitment to empower staff by integrating them into decision-making processes, recognizing their achievements, rewarding positive change, and providing the information and training needed to implement our ambitious priorities. You will recall that in July we launched Stars at Stars, which shines a spotlight on staff members from the borough hosting the meeting who have gone above and beyond the call of duty. So far, I think we've honored at least 10 Stars at Stars. But perhaps the most visible and fun example of our efforts to applaud your hard work was our staff recognition event last November. Approximately 500 of us, our friends and family, got together for a night of dinner, dancing, and staff awards. It was the first event like this that probation has held in almost 8 years, but we sure didn't look too rusty out on the dance floor. That was Ryan's line. So that won't be our last time we all get together. I mean, I did have a lot of fun planning it and really getting to know a lot of you guys, and I look forward to the next thing. I'd also like to shout out 3 of your fellow staff members who received some Citywide recognition. I don't know if they're here, but Steve Cacase, he's probably there somewhere. He received the Mayor's Customer Service Excellence Award. Barry Abrams, a 2010 Excellence in IT Support and Service Award, and Freddie De La Cruz, a 2010 Excellence in IT Support and Service Award. Congratulations to them. And congratulations and thanks to all of you, and now I'll hand it back to him.
All right, everybody, so as much as we accomplished last year, I think we have even bigger plans for 2011. Personally, I have to say we did a lot more planning than I'm comfortable with in the last year. I kind of get antsy in these planning meetings, and I'm a big implementer. I really look forward to doing the real work rather than just writing plans. I think you got to plan first, and so I tolerated that, but I think the real fun stuff comes when you're actually out there knocking out of the park. I have no doubt that we can do that. Also, I have no doubt that the challenges ahead of us are still significant. So I'm going to go to this next slide. When I arrived at DOP, like I said, a year ago, our budget was $87.1 million. When we start, well, as of the November 2012 financial plan, it's anticipated that on July 1st, our budget will be only $72.8 million. That's a 16% decline in less than a year and a half. I wish there was a way to avoid layoffs, but unfortunately our budget's been cut so much now and has been cut so much in the past, as you can see from this chart, that they're unavoidable. There's really no easy way to let people go, but I can assure you of a couple of things. One is that we're doing everything possible to minimize the number of staff we lay off. The other is that we're going to provide you with as much information as soon as we have it, so that people know what's going on. And the last is that we remain committed to providing better services despite the fact that our budget's going down. Our human resources team is going to organize information sessions that help as much as they possibly can the staff members that are affected by this in these really difficult times. So some of the system challenges that we face and have faced in the past and are faced by many correctional systems around the country, probation, parole, and otherwise, is that there are skewed incentives often in the criminal justice system that lead to poor outcomes for our clients, their families, and communities. Previously, our department had too many incentives just to avoid risk when it came to supervision. And I think that us folks here at Beaver Street have sort of contributed to that risk aversion. One thing we heard loud and clear in the focus groups that we went around is that staff really felt like robots. They felt like they were being robbed of their individual ability to make decisions based on this sort of enormous amount of information and contact they had with their own clients. And they were sort of forced into this box of compliance that people really felt robbed them of their ability to exercise basic sound judgment and forced them in some respects towards this risk-averse supervision. Somebody called it fear supervision once, I think, in one of the, that was like the best line that helps me describe this. Or fear something, I don't know, something like that. It was fear supervision. Scared supervision, okay. On the other hand, on the other side, there were few incentives or rewards for staff who worked hard to successfully keep clients out of the criminal justice system and move them into meaningful education and employment. Sort of the essence of our mission statement. So basically, the system encourages us to kick the can down the road, pass the responsibility to judges and sister agencies. They could lock up our troublemakers, our headaches, or they could make a decision whether to or not to revoke somebody and lock them up. We were going to cover our behinds. While this might have prevented some potential headaches for us and reduced our bottom line, our city spent millions of dollars on incarceration, our city and state, that we know end up hurting people in the long term. And obviously it's much better to help people turn their lives around. It's bad just for outcomes, but also, you know, we live in a nation that has the highest incarceration rate in the world. 1/3 of the black males in this country between the ages of 18 and 35 are enmeshed in the criminal justice system, and we owe it to ourselves and our society and our legacy to push back on that. And we're the probation department of the biggest city in the country, so we can't say this is somebody else's responsibility. We can look back and we can say, "Gee, Jim Crow, that was really bad stuff." We can cluck our tongues about the sins of our forefathers. This is happening on our watch, right? We are the largest incarcerator of our citizens in the world, and we are the largest incarcerator generation in the history of our own country, and that's falling largely on the backs of African Americans and Latinos. And we can't point the finger at anybody else on that. The good news for us is we're already doing something about it. We were doing something about it before I got here, and we're going to do even more about it now. One of the other things about this, though, that it's not always obvious is that drives resources. It doesn't just drive bodies, which are obviously the most important thing, but it drives resources. It drives resources away from the communities where people come from and into communities where they're incarcerated. So the vast majority of the people that when we recommend people for incarceration, the vast majority of the times they go upstate. And you can see this playing itself out now, particularly on the juvenile justice system, although to some degree on the prison system as well, where the upstate communities are fighting prison closures because they're job programs. All of a sudden they went from being public safety icons to being job programs that need to exist whether or not they have bodies in them or not. And so what Anna referred to a little earlier about the efforts that we're doing to realign state services, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get all of our young people back from the Office of Children and Family Services and a substantial portion of the money that we send there. What we have done so far, very successfully, largely because of this department, by the way, is get the bodies back. We've had a 62% reduction in the number of young people in OCFS care just since Mayor Bloomberg became mayor in 2002. That's huge. That's huge. So you'd have thought, well, since we're paying for 50% of them, we should be getting a lot of money back. But what has happened is that as we've reduced the number of kids upstate, the state keeps increasing the cost per kid because they leave the facilities open, by and large, and they leave them staffed. So we're paying 50% of a number today that's gone up by 150%. So actually, the city paid $17 million more last year than we paid in 2002, even though we reduced the number of kids by 62%. Because the price just since 2007 went from $100 per kid per day to like $380 per kid per day. It's just beyond belief. And the governor just announced the closure of 280 beds, I think it was. 370, 280, you know. 380 beds, 370 beds. And announced the but they're gonna actually staff up. They're adding staff. They're gonna go up. The state will increase its staff population by 100 staff. So instead of having 1,500 staff watching 600 kids, they're gonna have 1,600 staff watching 600 kids. So we're trying to undo that. We're trying to undo that in a lot of ways. We call that justice reinvestment, where we try to grab the money from these facilities and move them back to the communities. And to talk more about that is our Director of Justice Reinvestment Services, or Initiative, that is, Susan Tucker.
Hi, thank you, Vinny. So Vinny introduced me as the Director of Justice Reinvestment Initiatives, and you probably wonder what the hell justice reinvestment is. So I'm going to briefly explain it. Justice reinvestment is basically a two-step process. The first step is what Vinny referred to around reducing prison populations and budgets. And then the second part, which I actually think is the most important, is that we take leveraged savings and we reinvest that money in communities where people live who are on probation, parole, or who are going in and out of prison, in basic services and infrastructure that improves the life opportunities of people living in those communities. So about 4 decades ago, as Vinny mentioned, all across the U.S., states began to expand their prison systems, basically abandoning rehabilitation for warehousing. This has resulted in what you're going to see in these maps of New York City. There's an adult map, and we're going to show you a juvenile map in a few minutes, in which a handful of communities are sending a disproportionate number of their residents in and out of prison. That is a kind of forced migration of people between what we call high incarceration or high probation communities and prisons upstate. And it's basically a revolving door of people going back and forth. So people are being incarcerated for crimes or new crimes, and they're also being incarcerated for technical violations or probation and parole. I liked Anna's definition, and we should probably start coming up